Newegg TV's coverage of Computex is powered by new Intel Core processors.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Newegg TV. We're continuing our coverage here at Computex 2013 and we're in a bus. We're actually in a tour bus right now. We're on our way to the Gigabyte Motherboard factory, or so we understand. We assume that. Kyle, what are your expectations for our trip today?
My expectations are that it's going to be swell.
Swell is our expectations. We're going to maybe see how motherboards are manufactured. I've never been to a factory like this. We're not really sure what to expect, but we'll be taking you guys along for the ride, so stay tuned. And we're off to the Gigabyte Motherboard factory. Alright guys, we're now inside the Gigabyte factory. We're checking out the SMT area. This is stage 1 of the motherboard development. Let's take a look at some of the machines they have running here. So here we have a brand new PCB. It's going to have some solder that's placed out onto it. This is where all the tiny little components go. Then they have an amazing machine that can place small components onto the board at a rate of 10 per second. It's amazingly fast. And this is kind of when it gets the first components onto the board. From here it moves on to getting the larger components such as the CPU socket and chipset. Here we are at one of the many quality control stages along the production line. The parts we're going to get a visual inspection, and then there's also a machine that will run an inspection for anything that's smaller than 2 millimeters in size. Stage 2 of this process is the DIP area, that stands for dual inline processing. So behind me you'll see the motherboards being unpacked from stage 1. But you'll notice they're missing some key components. Of course, where are you going to plug in your memory DIMMs? Where are you going to plug in, oh, I don't know, PCI Express? This is the area where all those plastic components are going to get hand inserted to the place where they should be positioned on the motherboard. In case you guys are wondering which components specifically are installed on the motherboard at this point, they're all kind of laid out right here. So you have DIMM slots, of course. You're going to have stuff like your main power connectors, power fan headers. You got capacitors and chokes up there for power delivery, PCI and PCI Express slots, of course, as well as all of your front panel connectivity, COM header. I'm actually not, oh, this is a printer header, which is you don't see quite so often anymore. Front panel connectors, USB 1394, and of course all of your ever important SATA ports, as well as, well, you got IDE on there as well, which also is going the way of the dodo. After all of those little components are placed onto the board, well, they need to be held in place somehow. So what we have going on behind us is the wave soldering process. It's going to go through this machine, it's going to liquefy the solder, it's going to make all those connection points firm and solid and make sure that anywhere that you need an electrical connection, well, it's going to be there. From here, they're going to move on down this little platform, going to get cooled off a little bit by these fans, and then you notice what's going on over here on our right. This is some final soldering points. If necessary, they'll do some touch soldering in there. They'll also use some templates to lay that out and make sure all of the components are positioned right where they should be. And then from here, it's going to go on to quality control, where all of the components are going to be tested. Now there are about 1,500 components that are integrated onto each and every motherboard that Gigabyte makes. And a question you might have is, well, how many of them do they actually test before they ship out? The answer would be every single one of them. You'll notice rows and rows of testing areas behind me where they test every connection point. They're going to test every PCI Express slot. They're going to plug in your Ethernet ports. They're going to make sure everything works. They're going to run through the testing system that allows them to easily pop in each motherboard, test each part, test each component, make sure that everything is working properly before it goes to the final boxing up area. And when we say every component, we really mean every single component. They're all listed out here and labeled individually. This is a slightly older board that they have set up here as a demo, but you'll notice power connectivity, floppy connector, IDE, you got serial ATA going on back there. Of course, you have the all-important CPU socket, power connectors going to the motherboard, any fan headers that you might have on the board. Over here you have your rear I/O, including PS2, Firewire, USB of every shape and variety, even a block of 6 plugs going into to test every single audio connector. Then you got all of your add-on card connectivity there as well, which means all of your PCI Express as well as PCI. They even have this set up in a 2-way, I'm not sure if that's Crossfire or SLI, but they're going to be testing dual card configurations as well. And of course the all-important front panel connectors, motherboard headers I should say, USB 2.0 network, and I think that's everything. I might have missed something, but you know, they're all listed there for you guys if you want to double check. Behind us you'll notice these boxes being assembled, the boards are placed in, all of the accessories, extra components, and that sort of thing that you get when your final board arrives to you. This is where they all go into the box. I've talked about motherboards so far, but that's not all that they produce here at this Taiwan factory. Right behind us we have some video cards getting a final inspection. Those happen to be the HD 7990, which I know a lot of you guys are interested. Don't worry, they're making more of them. Also in the far back we have some GTX 780s getting boxed up. Also just some statistics in case you guys are wondering about how many motherboards on one of these lines can they produce in one day. Well, the goal is 5,000, so that roughly equates about 25,000 a week. And that is all handled by the employees here, and they have over 1,300 employees working at this one factory. And as far as motherboard output, compared to the overall number of motherboards that Gigabyte produces, about 20% of them come from this factory here in Taiwan. And here we are at the end of the line. The motherboards have been put together, assembled, finalized, quality controlled, and tested. They've all been boxed up with all their accessories, packed up here, and you can see proudly labeled Made in Taiwan. So at this point, we're going to close off this video. I want to say a big thank you to all you guys for watching. This has been sort of some supplemental coverage of our Computex tour here in Taiwan. And yeah, thank you again for watching, guys. We'll see you all next time on Newegg TV.